we're back. Welcome to Print Your Games, the podcast for the miniature printing enthusiast. I'm your host, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram, and I'm joined by
Kristen and Sowards, also known as Lost Spheres.
Here at Print Your Games, we love to talk about the wonderfulness that is the magic box that makes all the toys we want. But sometimes it's hard to find the exact toy you want. The world is filled with amazing artists that are producing an ever-increasing amount of miniatures. And today's topic will be talking about how we find the models we want to print ourselves. And some tips on how to find exactly what you're looking for, hopefully, and hopefully save a little bit of cash while you do it.
But spoiler alert, it's a good time to do it right now.
This is a great week. This is so fantastic a week to have this topic.
Yes. Hopefully you're watching this live or hearing it soon, because there's some great stuff happening right now.
Excellent. And as usual, we record these episodes live in front of a Facebook audience. So if you are listening or watching on Facebook and you have any questions about miniature printing or any of the topics we're talking about today, do get those questions in and I will address them on stream. But before we get started, Kristen, let's talk about projects. What are you printing this week? What has got your little heart buzzing?
Well, you may have known I was working on a Starfinder project for pickup, but the power of nature overwhelmed the power of technology, and it turns out I'm actually working on a whole bunch of Fae and Druidic magic projects, a big, huge army, and kind of diving in on a couple kind of more obscure figs. There was a couple Kickstarters, and I'm saying Kickstarters because they actually did STLs as purchases on the side, and you can still get those STLs. It's pretty rare for the board games that do those really big elaborate figs. One of them was the Dragonbond by Lair Studios. I think they're also called Draco Studios. They have a lot of names, but they did, it's spelled to me the Phi Hydra. I think it might be the Fae Hydra.
All right.
It is
this big beastie, right?
Massive. Yeah. And it's the first time I've actually done anything that large on my printer in one single piece. And it came out gorgeously. I think I lost one whisker when I was curing it. But, I can probably fix that. But, it's gorgeous, elaborate fig. It's just super wild. Has kind of a touch of like an Alice in Wonderland or like Jabberwocky, Lewis Carroll vibe to it. The heads are like clearly independent heads that like, like you play D&D or play any of these war games, a Hydra that has multiple attacks can like go all over the place. They often still project this kind of like, like dead straight on head look, and these are just like wildly doing something, like one's twisting back almost looking at itself and the other ones are kind of off the side. It looks really, really unique, and it's just sort of figure you wouldn't find anywhere else, and the fact that we could get the STL for that was just super cool, and I hope more game companies do that. Similarly, Legacy of Atmos is a kind of like Aetherpunk versus Druid army thing, and I did a Shala and a couple of the other Dryad figs from that, and they're just really neat. She has like kind of these wings of like moss or lichen that are like growing on branches. She looks very unique. You could definitely use her in if you're doing Sylvaneth stuff and you wanted an alternate sculpt for one of your like commanders for Sylvaneth for Warhammer Fantasy or Sigmar. Really, really neat figs though. But what do you got? I think I saw a couple of them. I have lost your audio. I don't know if that's a me problem or a you problem.
I think everybody has. Okay, so I have been printing up a Storm of Orcs, or a Forged of Orcs, or a Rift Forge of Orcs. So one of the games I play is, of course, King's War. I've talked about it on the podcast a lot. And new book came out, new armies to print. Halflings is one of them. Of course, I'm going to be printing the Halfling army. I've already got a whole bag full of Halfling knights I've been working on that look marvelous, but that's not the topic. My younger sibling wants to play the new orc army called Riftforge Orcs, or they're just really heavily armored orcs that shoot lightning and are strongly influenced by Warcraft. Some people have been, like, the community's been jokingly calling them the the Stormcast Eternal Orcs because they seem to share a little bit of the same rules, but they're orcs, and everybody loves orcs.
I like lightning orcs. That's cool. Oh, show and tell.
This has been the models that I've been printing in the new green resin that I have added the Tenacious to. So I could drop these on the floor. I could throw these on the floor, and these orcs would be fine, which is kind of ironic considering in game their stats, they're basically invulnerable. So it works. Oh,
cool.
It's skeuomorphic, and it's also I'll pull one of these out. It's also where I've been returning back to doing the Pressure Slice method instead of the Lychee Slice method. And I find that Pressure Slicer gets it right with the auto supports a lot quicker than they do than the Lychee does. I have to add more supports to Lychee. This might be because I'm using a Saturn and I'm vrooming, and that needs a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it might just be...
hey, your camera's doing its product support mode. Yay, or product showcase.
Yay. Wonderful. It was broken last week.
Yeah.
So I have an entire 2,000 point wargame army of orcs to print, and I've got most of it done over the course of 2 days by making the Saturn just go vroom.
And you've got it all painted, right?
Well, no. Though I have got a few of them painted. Now, this is the younger sibling. They picked the paint scheme, and I've just been copying it. But hey, they did all right, I think. And I'm going to show it up here on cam. You probably saw this on my Facebook. I
did
already.
See it. It looked good.
And it's like this black armor that's been like highlighted with blue to like signify the lightning, and they have the little red flappity crotch flags that lots of fantasy barbarian minis love to wear.
I should do.
Yeah, but of course that bright green, that absolute bright green orc flesh color, because I like my orcs green and glowy, and I want them to look oh so wonderful.
Oh, that's exciting! Can't wait to see the rest of them get painted up. Are you gonna do any command units that are like I'm now like thinking of your eagles for your elf army? You're gonna do something crazy for this one, right?
Oh yeah, they've got some of these like really cool looking commander orcs that have like lightning coming off hammers and axes, and they're jumping off the back of dire wolves. And I have the one of the key models is going to what's in the game is called Riftforge Boss on Winged Slasher. They like to give the monsters like kind of generic monster names to give you the most freedom on modeling them. So I have that Artisan Guild Chimera that's like absolutely massive and huge. It's by default size printing, it would be a gargantuan size D&D mini. It's on a 4-inch by 4-inch base. And I'm just going to have one of these orcs with its axe up in the air, like mid-air, just leaping off the back of the Chimera like it's about to jump down and kill a fool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
and that
hopefully we get to see it.
Yeah, so I've got the Chimera printed already. I don't have it close enough to grab and shove in front of the camera. And I've just been having... Oh, but one of the other things that is... if you can stall for a second.
Okay. That's
to say words when you stall, Kristen.
That's to say words. I'm still, learning my words. Okay.
This is going to be the Storm Giant.
That is badass.
Really massive frost giant that's just about to swing. And ever since I've been posting these pictures, I've been seeing like replies in our chat that these are very Warcraft inspired orkies. They are very Loktar the Augar.
Loktar.
Yes. And I love them, and it's going to be a cool army, and they're super happy to get to play with a cool army. And that's what I've been printing.
Very cool. Very cool. So where did you find all those amazing things?
Of course. Finding models is important. These models are all available on my mini factory, which is where I probably get most of my models, except I don't usually get my models through. But this is an important topic. You've got your 3D printer. You got your 3D printer. I've got my 3D printer. People listened last week's episode and they were like, you know what? We need a 3D printer. And we gave them exactly
2 people who did actually get printers we talked about and recommended.
Fantastic. That is good to know. I hope you all enjoy it. So you've got your brand new 3D printer, and you want to print some models. Maybe you've got a new resin printer and you want some actual figures to print, or you picked up that FDM printer and you're wanting to just cover your entire table with dungeon tiles. You still need to find the STL files, the models to print. And if you're not familiar, that's what those models are often available in, STL files. So when you see people on the groups going STL question mark, they're saying, hey, where do I get this file to print that thing you just showed me? It is the most common response to anything I post up a picture that I've painted.
And yet so many people still don't post that in response. Just save some time, folks. When you're posting your amazing thing, just link it in the bottom. Where did you get it? You'll save yourself a lot of response.
Oh, I'm guilty here. I'm guilty, but I do it on purpose, because if I say, hey, this is a really cool thing, and then I don't say where you get it just yet, I wait for a few minutes to see if anyone asks, so that I can get that social engagement bump when I answer the question.
I see. You're serving the algorithm.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
also unfair to say that for you because you kit bash. So like sometimes it's from 7 places.
Yeah, that really is the case. I posted up those elves and it was like, the shields are from Titanforge and the heads are from oh yeah. So you need to get your files, and there are a few websites to find your files. And the first place you should check, if this is your brand new printer, you need something to print, is I say go do the free source, the motherland. Go to Thingiverse. Thingiverse is filled with a bunch of free files, and you can find a lot of cool stuff there to print. There's some caveats. This is not where you're going to end your journey, young 3D printers. It's just a great place. It's just a great place to start.
Well, and there is a lot of stuff on Thingiverse, so be prepared to invest a little time searching through it.
Right.
And guessing at keywords.
Yeah, and because it's free and all fan-made, the quality is going to go up and down and up and down. MakerBot made Thingiverse. Now, this is true. The website is kind of getting long in the tooth, kind of buggy. It doesn't look like they're doing a whole lot to support it. And if you're watching and you can see it on screen, like, there is some gaming stuff, but there's also a whole bunch of, like, superhero stuff and prop replicas and a thing to keep your spaghetti sorted and a gripper to unscrew noodle bags. I didn't know noodles had screws.
That is not a bad thing either, because you're going to also see other things you could use your 3D printer for. Like, a lot of times people are given one or get one just because they wanted to like make their own mini or whatever. But you're going to find out that there's a ton more you can do with it. And Thingiverse is a great site for like, oh, cool, I can get a paintbrush organizer. Or, if you're like me and you knock over $8 and $9 bottles of contrast paint and technical paint every week.
Oh no!
You might want to go. I just did that just before. I just have been scooping up Necron Glow, put it on anything I had primed that needed it because half the bottle was on my newspaper. So don't be like me. Go to Thingiverse and print a container for your paint.
It's also a fantastic place to find like terrain files and some scatter files. Like, again, there's better quality stuff made, for purchase in some of the things we're going to say. But when you're just getting started, there is some amazing quality stuff you can just get for free. I mean, there's some files that the entire community is basically printed because it's great. Like this silver freaking dragon here. That's just wonderful from Ilm3DM. Ilm3DM makes so many free files for RPG players, but like really great looking dragon. That's just amazing. Really great looking chimera. That's just amazing. Could you
say that again? Ilm? Is it
Ilm3DM? Ilm3DM. It's just like their entire page is just free D&D focused miniatures that you can just 3D print. And they have a Patreon, and if you pledge the Patreon, you get like supported files and a decorative base and so on. But if you just need the files, or just want to try some stuff out, or you just need a monster right now, they've got a lot of pretty great files that you can just get and print, and they are releasing new ones constantly. The other cool thing about Thingiverse is that a lot of the big popular producers like Artisan Guild, Cast and Play, Titan Forge put free files on Thingiverse as samples of their monthly releases. So if you have a favorite artist and you want to try out some of their stuff, like they're usually pre-supported and everything that you can just download from either their My Mini Factory page or Thingiverse to just try them out. It's a great way to get a few free files and stuff. And also a great place to find like spell trackers and point trackers for war games and card holders and all sorts of accessories and dice trays and dice powers and everything to do with dice. Even dice. You can 3D print your own dice.
I've seen some really cool spell by level stacking trackers that people were using for their spell slots that were pretty neat on there.
Mm-hmm. But again, the downside to Thingiverse is it's buggy. It's a gigantic range of quality. I will tell you one thing to look out for when you're looking for cool models is sometimes people will like extract game assets and then just upload those raw game assets to Thingiverse. And first, they won't look great because raw video game assets do not look very good when printed out as is. And secondly, most of those that I've seen on there aren't even printable because video games don't have to worry about things like actual physics of reality and whether or not this thing will print successfully. They'll make an infinitely small cape that literally is just 1 pixel thick. Like, and when the 3D printer tries to print it, it's like this cape is thinner than 1/100th of a human hair. You're never going to get that to print. It's just going to fall apart and mess up your resin. You're going to have to clean up your printer. So do be careful when you see those T-posed stuff that's been ripped out of Warhammer Total War. That stuff is not usually printable, so don't do it.
Good tip.
Which brings us to the place where you can be pretty confident that the thing that you get is printable. And that's the other most popular website, My Mini Factory. This is where I spend most of my time hunting up new minis to print or new artists to support and stuff. My daily drive usually involves scrolling down here to the new release section and just browsing through what has come out within the last few days. Like these really cool snow white dwarves on war pigs I didn't know existed, but that's nice. And there are some free models on this website, but on My Mini Factory, it's often paid.
Yes.
So, and this is the most popular website for buying minis. This is where you're going to go most of the time if you're wanting to buy one-offs or old sets or previous releases from your favorite artist.
It's also where they distribute most of the Patreon files.
Right. Or if you select, or we'll talk about tribes in a minute, you might be subscribed to your favorite artist here. And that is another key thing. It's like when you're buying individual files, this is the place to go. There's a few other websites like Cults 3D that you could buy files on. It's not quite as popular. It's again more general purpose, and it is slow. It's the slowest website that I've ever tried to use, and like it literally will not let you load more than one page at a time.
It is strangely uncomfortable too. I don't know exactly why, and you know, maybe it's triggered by the name, but I swear sometimes I'm like, is this file safe? So I don't know. I bet I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. It's a very popular site.
And Cults is the only 3D website I know of that has a not safe for work tab at the top. So do with that information as you will, audience.
On the My Mini Factory, like what you were saying, a good example, and I know we're going to talk about it later in the news, there's some sales going on this week, and I've always kind of flirted with Cobra Mode, and I checked it out. There was a discount code on My Mini Factory's sale page, so I went and I saw a couple Mothkin, really cool. You don't see that fig very many places. And I was like, that's really neat. It's very unique. So I bought a couple of them and then used the discount code. But then I was like, well, I should really go look at their Patreon setup. And this is why I love My Mini Factory, how it dovetails so well with Patreon, because you can backtrack it and then you slide back into the Patreon page. And I did that with Cobra Mode, and they're still running their early sign up promotion. And so for a very reasonable price. I got in on that, and actually, because I had a little pre-birthday money for what's coming up, I snagged their annual and got onto their Discord, joined that community. Super positive group of people, by the way. I love them. The figs are totally flavorful, and it just kind of all spiraled out of this one little teeny purchase on my mini factory. So just being open and just explore a little bit on there, and you'll find the coolest stuff.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I go to my mini factory not so much to shop for individual minis, which I do, but more so that I go to my mini factory to find new artists and discover new models. I do buy models from here, but a good tip is if you see a model that you really like on their page, like you just said, check their Patreon, because most Patreons or tribes, I guess I should say or tribes now, because of how big
go to the
tribes
artist
has become.
page, and they're going to link where they go. Yeah, Patreon, tribes, they might have their own website. I know like Matt Station does that, where they have their free files, and then you can go to their personal, gated thing. But
part of the benefit of being a supporter of an artist, they usually will give you a discount code for their My Mini Factory page. And more than once, I have gone like, ooh, this is a really cool, like giant set of modular undead that I want to buy. It costs $30, but I can get a 50% off coupon by giving them $10 this month for Patreon. Oh no, I found a new artist I'm supporting, and I saved money by doing that.
That's
it's a great way.
Totally how the Cobra Mode thing went. It was a 40% sale. I bought the fig, then went and checked out the Patreon, went to the Patreon, signed up for the Patreon, and ended up with a 50% off discount instead of the 40% off discount. So I went back and bought some more of their backlist.
Yeah. So if you're wanting to save money, that's definitely a way to go. Also, when you do pledge to, let's talk about this. There's the two most common. We're going to say you support them on Patreon, or you're supporting their tribe. You've joined their subscription service. And that is probably the most common way to get yourself some files. A lot of files for very cheap. If you find a few artists you like that do models you like, or you find an artist that just does a ton of models. I'm looking at you, Epic Miniatures. You release some stupid amount of miniatures every single month.
So good. I didn't even blink signing up after that.
It's insane how many minis that they're able to put out. By just giving them usually $10 is the average, but some of the others are up to 12, 13. Some of the most expensive ones are 16, 17. You really have to be really good before I can justify the 17.
Right.
A month, and then you get the models they produce that month. And for most artists, that's somewhere around 10 to 20 models a month that you're going to get. And so a couple of big ones. We said Artisan Guild, Titan Forged, Curse God,
Clay Cyanide. Usually has a full set, and then has their faction set, which is a themed release. So it'll be a full set of kind of Arabian style stuff, and then there'll be a full set of yak people or whatever. And totally cool to build an army. Totally cool for flavorful encounter, unique stuff. I love it.
And what will often happen, and this is also true of terrain, and a lot of the a lot of the Patreons, you'll get themed terrain with your themed models. Ve Victus is a fantastic Patreon of they're very RPG focused. It's here's enough minis for a good few encounters or an adventure, and here's a bunch of terrain that features that stuff too. Arc Villain does the same thing. Cast and Play, that's basically their whole business model. Cast and Play is great because you just get a whole set of dungeon tiles that are themed with whatever that month
Adventurers
is.
Guild bar for next month. Holy crap, that's cool.
That's going to be amazing. And you get a welcome pack when you pledge to one of the subscription services, either through Patreon or Tribes or on their website. And the welcome pack is usually a great getting started set. A lot of the basic stuff you're going to need, your basic adventurers, you need your skeleton crews, you need your basic dungeon furniture. The welcome packs are usually a great way to get those essentials in, and you get all of these with the first time you pledge them, and they do update them.
I want to say cautionary tale. I'll be the cautionary tale again. Check their welcome package if you're interested before you buy that fig, because chances are, if it's a really cool fig, it's one of their promos. Yes, I totally bought those Mothkin and then went on Cobra Mode, and they were in the welcome pack for free.
Oh,
so I double supported them. but I'm all right with it.
Check to make sure that it's not this month's file selection that you're going to get the moment you join anyway. I've done that before too.
Usually most Patreons aren't that fast on getting it up on their store, but I have had that happen for sure.
It's changed since Tribes, because Tribes were almost,
Is
I think it's part of Tribes to
automatic,
require to get that in there right away.
Yeah,
so I'm getting those files so much faster, but since Tribes came out, which I love. Thank you, Tribes. I love getting my models faster.
I'm not quite 50-50 yet, but I have been shifting more and more over there because a lot of people are doing exclusive variant poses where they do two poses. And since I am not your level of amazing lychee and blender tweaking, I can't repose my figs. So if someone gives me 3 different poses for no additional cost, I'll jump on it.
I'm going to totally do a tutorial on how I repose my figures for everybody.
I'll be the dumb person who frustrates you in your tutorial if you'd like.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's actually so much easier, and it's become even easier the last couple of years. So that's great.
Quick last thing on the Tribes and Patreon stuff, when we're talking about using that as a sourcing thing. Check also which is cheaper. I'm just going to say it. A lot of times Patreon is cheaper. A lot of times Tribes is cheaper. They're running early promo on Tribes a lot right now. Also, people migrate that were already early promo on the Patreon. So sometimes those early promo slots on Patreon empty back up and you can snatch them up. So it's a good way to save money either way. And then, you're doing right so you can support more artists if you're saving money. That's the way I see it.
And I want to caution, when you're signing up for Tribes and subscription services, it is very easy to get over enthusiastic and over invest before you decide to sign up for a project or buy a whole bunch of files. Make sure it's for a project that you actually intend to do, and don't let FOMO freak you out. There are so many sales that happen over the months. Like, my manufacturer is having a huge sale right now, but there's always a sale. There's always a sale, or you can always get a discount code, or there's always a way to get those files later for a reasonable price. And if you can't get them on a discount, buying them individually is still not that bad compared to buying the physical models. And just don't over invest. Don't have a $150 monthly bill of files you're never going to print. I say that as someone who's been guilty of doing that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I keep trying to prune it. It keeps growing.
I got it down kind of low, but I will admit that was mostly because I converted a couple to annual.
All right. So the other big way you can get models to print is you got your free ones on Thingiverse. You've got your paid ones on My Mini Factory. You're subscribed to their Tribe or their Patreon or their custom website one. There's also files available on Gumroad and Cults, and a few on CG Trader, but I kind of that's a place of last resort because that is mostly a marketplace that was created for 3D animators to use and just sort of became a depository for 3D files as an accident.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find which ones are actually printable and which ones are just meant to be used in movies there. Also, very expensive. Very expensive there. Is campaigns, crowdsourcing campaigns, Kickstarters specifically. There are lots of Kickstarters every month for really great sets, and you can find whole towns, entire armies. Like Last Sword just did a entire Wood Elf army, and that's not uncommon. Every wargame army you can think of has likely had a Kickstarter campaign and is most likely still accepting late pledges, even if you missed the Kickstarter.
That's what I was going to point out, is don't be afraid to check that out. Both My Mini Factory and Kickstarters themselves. That's how I actually bounced through to that STL thing for Dragonbond and was like, oh, cool, I can get this Hydra thing. Because you just search through the remains, and there's still a ton of them that are active. I'm pretty sure, is Train Essentials even? That one just ended? Is still active?
It just ended, but you can totally late back into that. I don't know if that's up yet, but it will be. I know the individual sets are already available to buy if you want to buy the individual desert and forest stuff. And for those of you who are used to how RPG or traditional miniature Kickstarters work, I imagine all of us, or a good number of us, have pledged to Bones before, and you wait years to get your stuff. That is not how this works in the 3D printing industry. Most of the time, when I pledge to a 3D a miniature campaign, like, hey, I just talked about, we'll use this example. Cast and Play just did their big terrain Kickstarter where they just did this like ridiculous amount of terrain sets for all sorts of different environments, swamps, forests, mountains, etc., etc. I pledged in on that. The campaign wrapped a week ago. The day after the campaign wrapped, the files for most of the Kickstarter were already ready for me to download, and that is the norm for this industry. Now, I'll still be waiting on the ones that, like, there's always like, here's the ones we made in advance, and here's the ones we made during the Kickstarter, and that's most of your files that they'll show off because they want to show off those 3D renders to get you to pledge in. And then as stretch goals hit, those are the ones you're going to wait for. Like, all right, I guess we're doing Swamp Forest.
Do you remember what your pledge was on that by any chance?
Like $100.
So yeah, the late pledge is still active on it, just for people to be aware of. It is, or is already active, I should say. It's $129 for everything, or $29 a set. So you can still get on that.
Yeah, that's good. And that's on the more expensive side. Oh, we have a correction related to that. Is last episode we talked about what was that Kickstarter called?
It's from Crippled God Foundry.
It was sorry, Crippled God. Last year we talked about Crippled God's new Undead Ruins. I don't know if that's the name, but heck on it. I'm unprepared.
And that's right. I think we lost it in the notes here, but
yeah, I'm pulling it up soon. Ruins of Hollow Hills by Crippled God Foundry. And I reacted saying like, wow, $170 is a lot for a Kickstarter campaign. I was wrong. It's actually like $45.
It is $45.
The $170 was for this Kickstarter and every previous Kickstarter they've ever done.
Yeah, all their add-ons they've done. Yeah, so I should re-stand by my initial statement. It is a good value at $45.
It is a great this is a good value at $45, and 45 to 85 is about average for one of these crowdfunding campaigns. I'm pulling them up as I'm sorry, gang, for getting that wrong on air last week. And you're going to get a whole lot of files all at once, and you're going to get them right away. So if you've been Kickstarter shy in the past, as long as it's a reputable company running the Kickstarter, most of these companies, they're on like their third, seventh Kickstarter. They usually fulfill like within a month of ending. Like within a week, you're going to get the files that were ready. Oftentimes, they're going to have sample files for you to download. And it's a great way to find some free files too, is just to browse Kickstarter pages and download the sample minis that they have available, like that really cool Undead Giant from Our Own Terrain's last Kickstarter that that just ended.
Add on to that, when you're getting, like, normally you get Kickstarter emails and you're like, oh, back our next Kickstarter, and it's like, sign up to be, made aware, and you're kind of like, no, I don't want spam. 3D printing ones, check it, because it probably has a free download file with it. You can go snag right then. It's usually one of the better ones in the Kickstarter because they want you in. So just respond to the spam with this. I know that's weird. It's not what we get taught right now, but you can get so many cool free assets. Sometimes whole sample packs, like you said, just huge free stuff. So,
and often you'll get a discount code for your pledge. That's more common with the ones that are on My Mini Factory. Yep. And again, so things to look for a Kickstarter campaign is also like, how are they going to fulfill it? Again, it's likely going to be My Mini Factory. There's a few that fulfill through their own website that have independent, like one of my favorite companies, Last Sword, they fulfill all their digital stuff through their own website after the fact instead of through My Mini Factory. But I prefer it when it's through My Mini Factory because all my downloads in one place. I can go look and find what I need. And
it's drive-through RPG all over again.
Yeah, it's the drive-through RPG of 3D minis. All right, and those are some of the best ways to get yourself some files. So just to recap, everybody, free stuff, Thingiverse. Thingiverse has lots of free stuff. My Mini Factory, you can turn on free tag there and search through there. A surprising amount of good free stuff on My Mini Factory as well, but that's mostly where you can buy the good paid stuff from the artists.
Absolutely.
When you're looking find the artist you like, check out their Patreon or their tribes to see if the monthly subscription is right for you. And then finally, check Kickstarter, because gigantic batches of files in those Kickstarter campaigns is the norm, and you will get those files incredibly quickly. This isn't like the RPG side of the house where a year or two later and you're wondering where my book is. Or you do like I do. I pledged for this campaign 3 years ago. I forgot it existed. Random box shows up at my house. I didn't know where it came from.
Kickstarter must shows up. Yeah, I have had that. 2 or 3 years later, suddenly 4 books roll in. You're like, whoa. Same thing goes for the campaigns tab of My Mini Factory. I know we're still not used to thinking that as a Kickstarter place, but it is kind of a Kickstarter place now. So,
and
all right.
And I think that's anything else you can add to like how to find files for 3D printing.
No, that about covers it, I think.
All right, everyone. Well, let's move on to the news. The news right now is it's Black Friday, and retail, we must worship at the altar of retail, and that's no different for us 3D printer enthusiasts.
Fun fact, I was born on Black Friday.
Ooh, wonderful.
But not
all of you
year.
at once, or just half?
I was 50% off. No, I did manage to break my mom's water in the shower. That's how nice I am.
Convenient. Considerate.
But I also made my brother shovel through a blizzard to get to the door to take me to the hospital, to take her to the hospital to get me out. So it wasn't convenient for them, and that's just fine. But yeah.
You're a capricious fey child.
Well, the army for it. Yeah, Black Friday sales. What you got?
So first, My Mini Factory, there's like 50% off most of everything on the website. It's a great time to go pick up some backlog files or some one-offs. So yeah, go check out My Mini Factory. They've got a crazy amount of sale going on there.
And I'm gonna again say, get your file, check out their Patreon, bounce back. You'd be surprised. There's some of them that when you go to their Patreon, their Black Friday sale for their patrons is 70% instead of 50%.
A great tip for going back a little bit, a great tip for how to save on Patreons is check which new Patreons you want to subscribe to right at the end of the month, because some of them have limited slots in their discounted pledges and people leave them. And then they have openings, and that is a great time to slide into a new Patreon at a reduced price.
I've picked up almost 10 of those now.
Way to go.
Yeah.
All right.
And as people change their minds, just check. It's true.
This is also a great time right now to pick up a new 3D printer. Some of the better 3D printer deals we have right now is, let's start over on Elegoo. Elegoo is running about $20 off to a little bit more.
Like 73, I think is the most one, something like that.
Right. Most of their stuff. So you can pick up a Mars for $25 off. You know, the fact that the Mars is in stock is actually the good thing, not so much the $25 off. You can pick up a curing station for $15 off. So, you know,
which are really cool. I just used one on my Hydra.
Yeah.
I had to turn it sideways because it was so big, though.
Yeah. So it's not huge discounts over on the Elegoo side, but the ones that I was more excited, Anycubic is running a crazier sale. You can pick up a Mono X for almost $100 off. Correction, $260 off.
I was about to say the older one, yeah, for sure. Actually, and is the 4K on there too?
No, the 4K is brand new. So
okay, I was hopeful.
And here's the one, the Photon Mono Black Friday sale, $170. So under $200 to get you a mono printer that will print a great, fantastic quality minis is a steal.
Yeah, excellent starter printer for sure. If you're just wanting to get into your toe in the pool here, get it.
And on the flip side, go back to Elegoo, where you can pick up the new Neptune 2S for $230, which is a little bit more than the normal 2, but it has like lots of quality life upgrades installed on it.
Any of my friends watching who want to chip on my birthday present, that might work.
You will get you an FDM printer soon, Kristen.
Soon,
you have to.
You
have to.
I pray.
And Creality is running their cell is a little bit different. Their new Harlot 1, which is a mono printer, similar to the Mars and the Photon, is available for $50 off at $289.52, and it comes with 5 bottles of resin.
5?
5.
Holy crap.
I know, right? The resin is the discount there.
500 or milligram or
the 500 milliliters.
So okay, still, that's not bad. That's not bad. Ones. Yeah.
But pick different colors so you have a assortment.
Yes. Although if you get into it, you'll go through it really fast.
So that is the big deal there that I noticed. So, so great time to pick up a printer. I'm sure there's ones we've missed. So yeah, that's the news right now. I don't have like cool new revolutionizing all of 3D printing printers to talk about this week. We kind of ran out of those last week.
Give it a week. There'll be more.
And that's the news. So
that's the news.
Anything like not much I have to add to that. Just, good time to save some money. What are we shouting out to?
Shouting out. Well, I think it's worth pointing out that Titancraft, the Kickstarter for that, which is the customizable minis. It is 36 hours probably live, so hopefully you're hearing this soon. Podcast, you still might be able to do late backing on it, but I would check that out. If you're crazy like me and want to build a whole bunch of distinct undead armies, there is a 4 undead armies of the apocalypse Kickstarter so it has massive unique undead things. There's these cool like ogre undead zombie things with like maws in their tummies. There's these flayed bone creatures, and there are some super cool, like if you like Skaven figs and rat folk, there's some cool like Skaven type creatures. Looks like a pretty good pile of value on that one as well. And for me, like I said, I've been trying to build my 9 distinct undead armies. So there's 4 of them here to start, although I'll probably still tweak them quite a bit. But other than that, hopefully if you check out Drunken Dwarf, I'm just going to call it out because it's a brand new Patreon, and it is still very, very affordable to get into. And of course, since I'm all hung up on nature armies and fey creatures, they just did, I think it's Dark Forest is their first theme that they're doing. It's got some really killer treants and some druids. I would check that out if you want to get in on kind of the beginning of a cool Patreon.
This gives me big, strong cast and play vibes in a good way.
It does. It does.
Similar cartoony art style and matching bases and all that jazz.
Yeah, the bases are super cool. And if you'll notice in some of the shots that I sent you, and I don't think we have them up, but I actually did do dryads from both sets, and the treekin, the tree folk that I have are from that, and they're mixing in with that same cast and play Ancient Woodland set from months ago. But they're seamless. I primed in the same way and prepped in the same way, and they just look like they're all part of one big army. So
I do want to shout out to next month on Titan Forge, or rather their Cyber Forge Patreon is doing a very desert sci-fi themed set of miniatures that might match a certain movie you like a lot recently.
Sort of spicy.
Yeah,
spicy
super
miniatures.
Spicy, but kind of mixed with some grim, dark space marines. If we want to mix those two realities together,
Sardaukar Space Marines, maybe.
Yeah,
that'd be
exactly.
Cool. Very cool.
They're calling them House Eagle and House Bull instead, which is funny. And they look great, and they have the big giant worm because, of course, you have to have the big giant worm. I don't know how I'm going to print that worm. That worm is huge. It's like, am I going to have to use my FDM printer to print that worm? Because I'm not sure I can fit it on my Saturn.
That's big. That's big.
They have a habit. The Cyberforge has had a habit of releasing absolutely ginormous models.
I only have like their first month and then the stuff that came with Grid Wars. But maybe I need to circle back on that, especially if I get playing some more Starfinder.
As a Starfinder player, I'm loving it, and I'm getting a Stargrave game together, and so like I need a whole lot of sci-fi terrain, and they always include a bunch of terrain pieces with their sets. So like lots of and also a lot of Greeblies. So if you like to kind of like hybrid, like make your own terrain, like out of styrofoam or pizza boxes, etc. Like you can make the buildings, or go down to your hardware store and buy electrical outlet breakout boxes and paint them up, and then you can, and they have like little signs and windows and doors that you can glue onto
to make them look more legit. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so great. So that's why, and a lot of that's available in their welcome pack. So their welcome pack is super useful if you are also, like, their welcome pack has cargo containers, which you need in, like, I don't know why, but in the future everything is made of cargo containers. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, and
that's cool.
That's everything on their shout outs. Again, remember that if you want to follow what we do, check us out wherever good podcasts are found. I hope we've been approved by Google by now. It's been a while. I need to go poke it. But you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and most podcasts, podcast software. You can just search for us and find us there. Check us out at printergames.com and there as well. And until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
I'm Kristen Sauertz, also known as Lost Spheres.
And remember, you don't have to depend on your friendly local gaming store, but support them anyway. You can print your games.
Go buy your paint there.
Yes,
for the stuff you print.
I've spent so much money on paint at my FLGS since I got my printer.
Yep.
Later, everybody.
Bye-bye.